Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my page 112 tag video for February 2026. This is also my Buzzwordathon video for February 2026, and if you want to skip to that part of the video, check out this timestamp right here. So, the page 112 tag was brought to BookTube by Sean Breathes Books. It's based off of a French literary prize wherein they comprised the long list of said prize solely by reading page 112 of the books in contention. All of these books were novels, so generally speaking, page 112 is supposed to be past the polished for editors pages where you get to the raw, real writing. And without the context of the rest of the story, you can only judge the quality based on, well, the quality of the writing, unless, like me, you fudge things a little bit, like how I'm thinking about the fact that I have to read for the BookTube prize this month, so I have this external deadline, crunching down on me, and thinking to myself, maybe I should go for a short book. Although most of my books are about the same length, so... Anyway, I have been playing this game ever since the start of COVID. I've been playing it monthly. I take this handy-dandy Books and Cats mug. This is filled with pieces of paper. They have titles of books I've acquired from 2025 or earlier. I pick out 3 at random, and then I read page 112 with you of the 3. I discuss their merits, and then I pick one of those books to join my TBR. So yeah, this is my way of tackling my, physical unread shelves while, slowly also building them back up again, as you do. But yeah, I'm always very excited to play this game for the, rush of the unknown that's coming for me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with book number 1. I do usually hope for at least a little bit of diversity. A lot of the genres are similar, but, I got them at different times from different places, so you never know. But I'm going to go ahead and see if I can grab this one. Okay. Ooh. Not Our Kind by Kitty Zeldis. So this is a book I've had for a while. I'm pretty sure I got it from my Friends of the Library used bookstore on a haul some years ago. This is Jewish historical fiction that I have played with before, and the plus of that is that now I have less post-production to do now, so huzzah. All right, now we're going for book number 2. So maybe I got it at a different time or place at least, or maybe it's not historical fiction, but you never know. I'm just trying to grab one out of here, so let's see. Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. I don't think this is a book from 2025, though I could be mistaken. I also don't think I've ever played with it before, so even though I have to do more post-production now, I'm excited because, I don't have any assumptions from past play going into this. This will be my first time reading this page. This is non-Jewish fiction, I'm pretty sure, and it might be contemporary too. Okay, and rounding things out with a final one for book 3. All right, just see what we get here to complement those two. Oh boy, and we get the Flight Portfolio by Julie Oranger. I had this one in the back of my mind thinking, if I don't want a long, sort of dense book, I don't want to get this one, but I got it. This is pretty dense historical World War II fiction that has been in the game for a while. I will say, though, that I do put all of these books on my Goodreads TBR so that I have this resolution that once it reaches the top of the list, I'm going to read it no matter what. So it's okay if I have it on my TBR forever for the page 112 tag. It won't stay there forever, I promise. Okay, you've seen me pick out these 3 books. I am going to read or reread them to myself first in order to gather my thoughts, but I'll be back with you soon, so stay tuned. Okay, I'm back and ready to discuss these books, starting with book number 1, Not Our Kind by Kitty Zeldis. Taste, and only when Wynne isn't around. She must love that, Eleanor enjoyed trying to picture it. How's she doing anyway, with her schoolwork and all? Really well. She's a bright girl. I wouldn't be surprised if she turned out to be a writer. Our Margot, you think? I do, Eleanor said. You just wait. You sound very sure of that. Tom handed her the drink. She's already shown a lot of promise. Eleanor sipped her drink. It was so good. Or did she feel that way because Tom had made it? Some of her compositions are first rate. As good as any student I've ever taught. Better, in fact. Oh, that's right. Trish said you used to be at Brandon Wythe. Eleanor nodded, hoping to discourage further questions. An excellent school, or at least that's what I hear. Why'd you leave? Mr. Bellamy, she couldn't call him Wynne, had asked her the same question. It was time to move on. Eleanor hoped her voice remained light and did not betray her. The song ended and Nat King Cole's Sentimental Reasons came on next. She jumped on the distraction, swaying her head and humming along to the music. Tom took another sip of his drink, set it down, and grinned at her. Shall we dance? He said. Clearly her ploy had worked. Pie forgotten, Eleanor set her own drink down and moved easily into his open arms. They danced without speaking for a few minutes, but the silence brimmed with sensation. Tom felt so different from Ira, tall, sinewy, with an expansive, easy way of moving. The song ended, and an announcer's unctuous voice came on, extolling the many considerable virtues of the latest model Chrysler. Tom let his arms remain around Eleanor, and she did not move away. So yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about from the last one, in that, or the opposite of the last one, because there was a little bit of exposition to explain Eleanor's feelings, but there was a lot of present action going on in this page. We had a lot of dialogue, people talking in real time, and then they were dancing in real time. So I feel like that's more compelling in terms of storytelling, although I do like me some exposition. And in this case, though, I'd quibble about it. There's not a lot of exposition, but I'd quibble about it because I think the author is bashing us over the head a little too much with Eleanor's concern over this question about her past work history. I mean, I think the author tells us way too many times so bluntly, she doesn't want to talk about this, she doesn't want to talk about this, and I'm like, why couldn't you just go with, like, Tom asks her about it, and then she immediately, as soon as she can, jumps onto the song to switch the topic. And if we just focused on that, or how quickly she jumped to the song, like, instead of answering, that would tell us with her actions that, she is worried about talking about this and doesn't want to talk about this, without the author telling us several times in a row, oh, I'm so nervous, I don't want to talk about this. So I'm feeling very writerly, I think, in this page 112 tag in terms of my, thoughts on these pages. But yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting. We obviously have a character with a hidden past, and she has this interest, it seems, in this other character, Tom. Since we're in the middle of the book, there's a lot we just don't understand. We're in the middle of a conversation. We're talking about this character, Margot, and we can tell from the dialogue that she's Eleanor's pupil, and that we don't know how Tom, I think, fits into that equation. But yeah, so, that part is, confusing because we don't have the context, but it seems like it has promise for interesting character relationships, but I do want to quibble about, I guess, that one thing. It kind of just feels a little too pedestrian. Book number 2 is Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho, which, by the way, I got this back in October of 2024 from Capitol Hill Books. I'll leave links to both of the bookstores I mentioned listed down below. Capitol Hill Books is this little townhouse in DC that is filled to the brim with used books. Just kind of special just to go in there, just to, creak around with all the books. But anyway, let's get to this page. And just a small content disclaimer, there is some sexual language, just a little bit, coming up very shortly. "He was cute, right?" said Fiona. "They can smell another dick on you like blood in the water. I like that little gap when he smiles." Tish made a noise, sucking her teeth. "You always do this." "Do what?" "You don't know anything about him, babe. Trying to fall in love with his teeth?" "I think he said he was a teacher." Fiona struggled to remember, but the hangover had her in a haze. Something with high school kids. "In other words, he's brokety broke." Tish drained the rest of her Bloody Mary and raised a finger to get the waiter's attention. "The sisterhood has you on probation." She lifted an eyebrow, making Fiona laugh again. Her Motorola chimed, an unknown number flashing across its little window. Fiona instinctively rejected the call. She swirled the last dregs of her mimosa in the flute and tilted the glass to her mouth. The phone beeped, alerting her to a new voicemail. Fiona knew what they wanted. She'd missed the last 3 payments on her MasterCard, 4 months past due to Sally Mae. Envelopes appeared in her mailbox, late fees and overdraft notices, ballooning interest rates, letters from the collections department threatening serious further action. She ripped up the letters and threw them in the trash, sometimes without even reading them. Then the phone calls started. Tish asked if she were free on Wednesday. My brother and his little friends are throwing some rooftop party. Okay. Oh, I really like this. I like it a lot. I gotta say, I know Tish, well, she obviously has a little bit of attitude, but I find it endearing. You know, she has some spunk to her, some personality. But otherwise, there was just so much happening on this page, and I think the author just melded together really, really well. I mean, we're starting with them talking about presumably somebody maybe they were just flirting with that Fiona maybe she likes or wants to like, and she and Tish are going back and forth over whether this is a good like or not. And after hearing the rest of the page, I gotta say, maybe it's not the best like, because Tish is looking out for Fiona's finances, which we realize through, the call that happens, are in pretty serious trouble, that she is throwing away notices about late fees and so forth. And so, yeah, she seems to, she has some pretty big things on her plate. But I just really like how they threw it into this scene where obviously the two of them are out drinking somewhere and having fun. And I assume Fiona's not trying to think about this, but, the phone call is a way for us to, to hear about it, for that reality for her to come into the frame. And then, of course, we end with moving back to the fun reality. Maybe Tish and Fiona will be going to a party. But yeah, I just feel like there's a lot. There's dialogue. There's, some exposition that teaches us about the characters that flows from the phone call. There's, fun characterization. I really like it. And finally, book number 3 is The Flight Portfolio by Julie Oranger, which I'll mention I also got from Capitol Hill Books a couple of years before the last book. The day before yesterday, I was swimming in the Mediterranean off of Port Bow with Golo Man, entirely in the nude, while the others had their siesta. Fine young man, Golo. Under different circumstances, you might have been jealous. And you, too, I trust, are also well. Your students love you, and your friends keep you busy. Your bed must be full of boyfriends by now, and I can't blame you, as long as you kick them out before I get back. Have you perhaps by now settled upon one of the houses you described in your earlier letter? Whichever it is, I promise I'll love it. I'll get home to you and to it as soon as I can. For now, dear E, imagine how grateful I am to have a wife who understands the necessity and urgency of my work here, as I sincerely hope you still do. With love, as ever, your V. He blotted the letter and capped the pen. Grant, reading over his shoulder, made a noise of quiet bemusement. I hardly merit a mention, he said. Varian turned in his chair. I wrote your name twice, didn't I? Perhaps I'm not as fine a man as young Golo. Grant sat before him on the bed. They had agreed to meet for a drink on Varian's balcony, while Katznelson visited a colleague at the university. Grant and Lisbon. From some secret linguistic reserve, he'd produced a knowledge of Portuguese that had allowed him to shop for a sky-blue cravat in the manner of the local dandies. In his pocket, a silver cigarette case filled with a set of Cuban cigarillos, and a diminutive silver cutter. What could Varian have written to Eileen about Elliot Grant, the apparition who refused to disappear? Varian had nothing to hide, as regarded his own behavior. Not that he and Eileen were in the habit of hiding anything. Eileen detested ignorance above all else, and most of all her own ignorance in personal affairs. When they'd agreed early on that a cosmopolitan marriage allowed for an occasional adventure on the side, they'd also agreed to be perfectly honest. It was no secret to Eileen that he'd had liaisons with men. She tolerated them as a peculiarity of his character. But how was he to be honest with her about Grant, when Grant's presence was still a matter of consternation and confusion? Okay, well, I'll just start to say it's kind of interesting to compare this one to the last book, which was about YA romance troubles. maybe it would be easier if, the protagonist of that story could just, have both boys, It would make it much easier if she were in a cosmopolitan relationship with her lovers. I mean, not that I really know enough about the context of that story. And anyway, to get back to this one. Yeah, I'd forgotten a lot of the details other than Holocaust, but Varian Grant was an American rescuer who went abroad to Europe to try to rescue artists and such from, persecution. And I remember I read about his complicated past, maybe in an essay by Dara Horn in People Love Dead Jews, which maybe I should read again before reading this book. But yeah, as far as this is at all about his rescue missions, maybe the very end of his letter to his wife maybe alluded to it. But other than that, he mostly seems to be on some, striking romantic vacation where he can't seem to shake this guy Grant, I suppose. I mean, even I guess if you're going to have dalliances with men, maybe there's still parameters that could be crossed. Like, it kind of seems like from this exposition that he wants to be a little more casual with these relationships, and Grant might be sticking around and be a little more important than all that. And what's going to happen then when he returns home to Eileen, who he's expecting will kick all her lovers out of bed? So presumably he should do the same. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting how, having the letter and having his lover read over his shoulder gives this opportunity for a lot of exposition where we can explain what the marriage is like and all of that. And it's definitely, I don't know, I guess I'm getting the feeling that it's going to be a really chock-full book. It's a very chunky book. I know from, the cover copy, it's going to be about some of his rescue missions, which don't, appear at all in this page. So it gives off the impression it's going to be a lot more hyper-specific about his personal life as well. Okay, so the first thing I think I'll do in breaking down this list is taking one book off immediately. I think that's going to be Not Our Kind by Kitty Zeldis. I do appreciate this page. Seems like there's some interesting relationships, but I thought some of the writing was a little clunky, and I didn't really have that problem as much with the other two books. So yeah, that leaves us with Fiona and Jane and the flight portfolio. And I know I already kind of teased things. I talked about wanting the shorter book. I talked about being nervous about how long this book is. I've played with it several times. But I feel like I also have other good reasons for choosing this book over the flight portfolio, which I still really enjoyed. But I feel like the writing was a little tighter on this page. I really do. I mean, I liked, getting to read over Varian's shoulder, the letter to his wife, and then, Grant's defensive reply about their relationship. And then it gets into the exposition about, I guess, what he's up to, other than the actual reason he's, in Europe, for altruistic reasons. But I just feel like, I don't know, it was just a little more ponderous and I guess inside the character's head, which sometimes has to happen, especially in literary fiction. And overall, I probably wouldn't begrudge that, but I feel like in this book, it just was all so seamless. It flowed so seamlessly, and like we get a little bit of exposition about Fiona's, financial troubles, but it's quick and it's very related to the phone call and to also not just what she's thinking, but how she's responding to the situation by, throwing away the letters and so forth. So I really feel like there was just a lot of intriguing stuff on this page, and so I'm very much looking forward to adding it to this month's TBR. Okay, and now to the Buzzwordathon. Buzzwordathon is a TBR list of prompts that has been put on for many years by Kayla from Books and Lala. She started with title prompts. She'd go back through the last year in publishing and look at the buzzy trends in titles, and then she'd pick them for one prompt a month for the next year. So she did that for several years, and then starting last year, she also added in cover prompts, looking at the trends in cover design and fixing them to 12 cover prompts throughout the year. And so that's the Buzzwordathon that I'll personally be joining. I also did that Buzzwordathon last year and had a lot of fun. I'm particularly applying a very specific book haul to my Buzzwordathon, pile of possibilities. Because also for the second year in a row last summer, I went to Raid the Shelves. Raid the Shelves is put on by the Jewish Book Council. They're an organization whose website I basically live on. And once a year, they open their offices in Manhattan to the masses because they get like a whole lot of books from publishers and other places, and they want to clear them out. And so basically, you can come in with tote bags or suitcases or what have you and take as many books as you'd like. And I took over 20 with me last summer, and I wanted to find a way to justify reading a bunch of them relatively quickly. So I decided to apply them to the Buzzwordathon prompts. And as you can see, I've already started. January is in the bag. I have to admit that the prompts don't always match these books all that well, because I think these prompts have more to do with genre fiction, and a lot of the books I picked up from Raid the Shelves are more mainstream literary fiction, but sometimes they work, and I think they do work for February, for example, where our prompt is silhouettes. And I've decided to go with Cult Classic by Sloane Crosley, and I feel like this thing is pretty much filled with silhouettes, or at the very least, you know, that black figure seems to be like a reflection of the figure at top, and both of them aren't, you know, actual detailed figures. They're both, you know, approximations of figures, and then we just have all of these matching figures of faces and so forth, and none of them are detailed. They're all just one color apiece. So yeah, I think this works well. And that about covers it for me now. I will leave links to the Goodreads pages for all of these books listed down below in case you'd like more information, as well as the link to my playlist of TBR games if you'd like to go back into the page 112 tag of Yore that I did. Also, I play another TBR game quarterly. I have those videos in there as well. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to adding both of these books to my TBR. I'm going to be rather non-fiction heavy with the BookTube prize, so got to get my Team Fiction jollies in somewhere, so those two should do the ticket for February. Anyway, I should be back on this channel hopefully in the near future with my January reading wrap-up, you know, considering we're moving further and further into February. It would be nice to, you know, check that off the list as well and then, you know, move into the future of reading, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I hope you all are doing very well with your reading. If you're choosing them due to prizes or TBR games or what have you, I hope you're enjoying them. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.